Thursday night football is upon us, and it's an interesting matchup tonight between the Bucs and the Bills. One where the Bills should have some opportunity downfield. The Bucs as well, going against the Bills team that's pretty weak out wide. Let's talk about it all. Of course, today for the showdown, I'm going to hand build a lineup that we're going to optimize some lineups along with looking at the projections and the ownership projections from Stokastic.com. And last but not least, we're going to simulate some lineups, all with the goal of one thing: finding out who are the must plays of fantasy football. I guess I just needed to yell at the clouds for a moment there. Either way, we are in the huddle draft here. The huddle draft. God, I'm never going to get a best ball brain for this stuff, am I? We're in a huddle lineup build right now on DraftKings. A single entry, $5. The prize pool in this one is, I don't think anybody cares, $15K to first. So we're going to try to build a good single entry here. And the first thing that I will talk about, which again, I do think stands out to me in this situation, is going to be that Buffalo should have an opportunity to get the ball downfield. It's deep ball time, or as our pal, one of the leaders of the Squirt Squad, Tyler, points out, ball's deep time here. Yes, that is what Josh Allen will be going for today. Josh Allen, if you watch the Spags rankings videos, you know one of my pain points for him on the year, he's not throwing it deep as much. He's also not running as much. With the Bills struggling a little bit lately offensively, as well as defensively too, frankly, since they've lost some of the guys they have, it does feel like this could be time to push Josh Allen into action. And that's going to be the case. He's in a pretty good matchup going against the Tampa Bay defense on the year, giving up a deep ball, which is defined as a 20-plus air yard throw, 5.2% of the time, 0.64 EPA on those plays. Overall, the Tampa Bay defense is not bad, basically league average with a negative 0.02 EPA per drop back, negative 0.02 EPA per pass. They also are pretty bad at a QB rush defense, 0.49 EPA per QB rush allowed. That's something that last week we saw a weakness in Detroit's D, allowed Lamar to take advantage of it, not only with how Lamar himself was running, but also was running, creating lanes for other guys to get open downfield. Mark Andrews, most notably, Zay Flowers. Not the same situation, obviously, but it is one where we do have an archetype we can look at that's pretty similar. So right away, I do think Josh Allen has to make this build somewhere. He's disappointed me in the spot a lot, where we have seen Bills. I know the Sunday night showdown, another one where I was like, you got to have Allen in the lineup. I don't think we did a video for that one, but did think I had to have Allen in a lineup, and he ultimately doesn't make the winning lineup because he puts up under 15 points, I believe, in that one, or doesn't get enough either way to make it into the optimal. That's something with Josh Allen that's come up a lot. I also think this week, one overarching narrative, which has nothing to do with Josh Allen, I think people are probably going to go to the underdog a little bit more here just because of what we saw on Monday Night Football. Build with heavy Vikings exposure does get there. A lot of 5-1s also doing well throughout the night. That is something that sometimes people take notice of. So I expect that, not as only saying that just to the people and how they're going to play, for you guys out there, you should be playing some 5-1 Bucs builds tonight, or 4-2 Bucs builds. Definitely Bucs heavy builds, because we just saw an upset happen. People didn't play it enough. People are not playing the underdogs enough on some of these showdown slates. And that is something historically that's had a lot of success. Obviously, it's more up to your play style. Like, that's one of those kinds of plays where you kind of have to be willing to burn some money to win the biggest potential money. If you are playing any 5-1s or 4-2s leaning on the underdog, especially with 17 implied points for the Bucs. But I think tonight, that's one thing to consider. Not a thing I'm going to do in this build. I do want to put that over as kind of an overarching point right away. Samir, I fucking love you. Got to work for a few hours, but you can rest a motherfucking sure that we're rewatching. Shout out, Samir. Appreciate the chat as always. Shout out our guy Charlie, of course, one of the top finishers in BBM last year. So he is the credibility I need by being a person who dares to watch this stream. But let's talk about the rest of the plays here. So I got to tell you, for a single entry, I don't know if this is the wisest move. When is the Gabe Davis game going to be? When we know there's one that comes up any time of year, when you see a matchup where the team is bad downfield, like we talked about Tampa Bay is, also not great defending the slot, 0.21 EPA there, 0.23 EPA per target allowed out wide. Feels like a spot where Gabe Davis could get going here. And I think for the sake of a single entry, for the sake of getting different, and frankly in a 150 max as well, I'm putting Gabe Davis where we all hate putting Gabe Davis, at the captain. Too cheap of a price tag. I think it's $6,800. We know if he does have that 40 fantasy point day, it is going to be him. It would be unavoidable at captain. For a guy like Gabe Davis too, I think one of the things for him tends to be like, if he's doing enough to make your lineup, he might be doing enough to make it as captain as well. Just because of the outlier performances there, the fact that you might get a 5-point play, you might get a day of added completely useless in the flex for him. But if he does have the good day, I think you want to be on the right side of that one. So I am going to go with Gabe Davis being our player at captain, which, yeah, feels about as good as you guys would imagine, I would think. Let's go to another player that's hard to imagine him not making the lineup. We talk about him a lot in the Spags rankings videos. Stephon Diggs every week just clocks in, clocks out, does his job, is basically the same player he was last year. A little bit less efficient than he was last year, but I think that reflects more so the offensive environment more than does anything that Diggs has done himself. We've seen the ceiling as well. Games like Miami show how much he can put it down relative to any receiver that gets taken around where he got taken in terms of the offseason best ball drafts. But I think for Diggs, just again, weak pass game matchup, one that should be able to benefit him. I think the way to get unique here is to not put him at captain. Obviously, I think he's going to look great at captain as well. We'll see what the ownership is in a minute. I don't check that data before the stream to keep it fresh and try to give real takes here that are off the top of my dome first. Off my dome. What? Who have I become saying sentences like that? Either way, though, I think Diggs is one of those guys. I'm having a lot more lineups than not just because of the upside, especially in full point PPR and how it's perpetually there. All right. Another spot that we think we could target. So on the year, the Bills getting much worse since Tre'Davious White's gone out. But this was a weakness even when he was still out there. Defending out wide, really bad. One of the worst marks in the league. 0.52 EPA to target per target allowed out wide to opposing receivers is this Bills defense. So that means one thing. It's going to benefit Mike Evans. It might benefit Chris Godwin. Could benefit both, but I think more likely it's going to benefit one of them. I think the more obvious play is going to be Mike Evans. Mike Evans, higher price tag at $10K. Chris Godwin, $7,800. So you are getting a discount for Godwin, even though Godwin running 30.7 routes per game compared to 28.2 for Mike Evans. I think Godwin's a solid play. I personally prefer Mike Evans, just the boom bust nature of how he plays, the splash play of it all that Mike Evans brings to the table. I normally do love to have in lineups, but at $10K, it's pretty tight. Let's see what we can do with Evans first. So we get 3,300 left on the table. You're going to hear a lot about Cade Otton if you do, like I recommend, which is watch videos across the industry throughout the course of a day. When ETR talks about it, they're going to say Cade Otton, great value. He's getting 11% target share. Stochastic. I watched a little bit of that this morning with our pals Lofty and Matt Kajeski over there. And they were talking about it too. Cade Otton, 11% target share. I think covers the Derek Carty over there. The bet that they were recommending to take was take the over on Cade Otton. I think Cade Otton's going to be a very trendy play today at his price tag, which you can see right here, $3K. I think he's a guy that's certainly going to give you some floor. I definitely could see him making a winning lineup as a guy that opens up roster space for other players, salary for other players. But I think with Cade Otton, the risk point is that if the people are going to play him a little bit heavier because he's getting so steamed up in the conversation around a showdown, and I do feel like Thursday Night Football, this is totally anecdotal, because you get a little bit less casuals for these kind of middling Thursday Night Football games. I think the ownership gets steamed up a lot more by the content people and what they're doing. So your run pures, your stochastics, your ETRs, especially, like all of those, I think combined to really contribute to a guy. So Cade Otton, I think we can put him in right now. But I'm probably going to deviate off him just because I think that he will get really chalky by the time this is all said and done. Bucs D being in here would make us unique, but obviously not the sexiest play. And then we are going to have a $50K salary, which you do want to tend to avoid if you're trying to avoid dupes. Dawson Knox out this week, but Dalton Kincaid's been priced up. So Kincaid, a very interesting play. Let's see if we go off Otton to Kincaid, what we can do is 1,600. This is getting really narrow right now. Deontay Hardy, a decent price tag, should be more 3 receiver sets. Trent Sherfield going to be probably the pivot point to Deontay Hardy. What is Sherfield's routes at? Because I think there's a spot to attack because I don't expect there to be as much 12 personnel for Buffalo. Of course, 12 personnel being 2 tight ends out there, which they've been playing a lot of with Dawson Knox and also Dalton Kincaid. All right. Let's see. Sherfield. How many snaps is Sherfield getting? Sherfield getting 21.4 snaps per game, 8.9 routes per game. Hardy was more involved last time out, made the winning lineup last time out, 10.3 routes per game for him, 14.6 snaps. More red zone work for Hardy. Fuck, I feel like Hardy's going to be a chalky build, though. Is there anybody else who could be getting, I guess, Shakir? Is Shakir 200? No, Shakir's 3,200. Jesus. Shakir is getting how many snaps per game? Shakir's the same play as these guys. Man, Shakir is your pay up to get contrarian guy. I don't think, obviously, he's not going to work in this build if we keep Kincaid in. But that's the guy I think you can go to if you're just want to get out of that lump of ownership, because there's going to be a lot of people that end up in the same situation as me that you can see on the screen right now, where so we have 1,600 left. You then see, oh, Deontay Hardy, he was good last game. He's $1,000. You see, oh, wait a minute, the pivot point's Trent Sherfield. He's $400. I think both these guys end up owned because of how cheap they are and just how much salary is left on the table. And a lot of people are going to know that there's going to be more 3 wide receiver sets today. Nobody's going to go up and pay for Shakir. So I like Kincaid a lot. I think he's a very good player, very good play overall. I'm going to go to Shakir here. I feel like this might make Josh Allen closer to a captain play, but so we have to use up the salary to make it so this couldn't be a lineup where Allen actually could be the captain in it. I think we go to Otten now. I think this is going to be unique enough because going to Shakir, getting Gabe Davis a captain, that's 2 levers to make us unique. So this is going to be my huddle team. Woof. This could end up really poorly, or this could be my first huddle win that we've had from a hand-built team on here. Lots of cash lineups. Nothing coming close to really winning on the huddle that we built on stream so far. My final team, though, Gabe Davis, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Khalil Shakir, Cade Otton. I guess the one pivot we could make to get more unique would be you go to Godwin instead. You get a little more money to go to McLaughlin. I mean, we could leave money on the table as well. It could still go to Cade Otton, I guess. This would make us really unique. All right, fuck it. Let's go really unique. That's the goal here, right? To go as unique as possible, to win yourself a showdown. So let's do it. That'll be the final team. Swapped in Godwin. And there we go. You can see it on the screen. Gabe Davis, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton, and Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir, by the way, I don't think is a better play than Hardy and Sherfield. Those guys are great plays relative to their salary. We're going to see in a moment here what the projections from Stochastic say. That said, like, because of the fact that he's so awkwardly priced, and you look at the numbers and it's like, why does Shakir have this price when the other guys are priced so much cheaper? That just makes him a play that's not going to get played. So I think Shakir going to be very, very interesting for tournaments tonight, though. Again, like, not a player that I'm saying take the stand on Khalil Shakir. That's not how that's looking. Stephon Diggs going to be the top projected guy according to Stochastic right now. 22.97 projection. Josh Allen, 21.22. Baker Mayfield, number 3, 15.5. So a chasm between Diggs, Allen, and Baker Mayfield. So that does mean when we run the optimizer in a moment, we are probably going to see a lot of ownership, a lot of projection there going to Diggs and Allen. These guys are probably going to find their way into every lineup. You know what that means as well? One way to get unique from the jump is going to be separating these guys out. Play lineups of Allen stacked with Bills that aren't Diggs. Play Diggs and lineups without Allen. That is one way you can get unique right away when you see 2 guys who are such outliers in projection. You know the fragility of how a wide receiver projection can be. Number 4 in terms of the projections, Chris Godwin. Number 5, Mike Evans. So Godwin projecting slightly better. He probably be a pretty good optimizer play because, as we mentioned, he is much cheaper. So I guess my other build with Mike Evans might be more unique that we swapped off of in that huddle build. Top values according to Stochastic right now. And of course, this does move around throughout the day. So check it out. Pay for a membership, of course. Check out your local projections. ETR, for whatever reason. I know I've talked about in the past. Like, I love Cody Main. He's been on the show before, of course. Splash Play was great giving out some Pro Bowl advice. ETR, I feel like, is deliberately sabotaging my data where I can't use their stuff on stream because it comes out like 11:45 now. And they're very aware of our channel. So I'm watching you, ETR. Give me data when I need it. I want to give you guys the best takes possible. Trent Sherfield, top value play. So again, he will come up probably a good amount. If I had to guess off the projections right now who's going to come up when we run the optimizer, it's going to be Diggs, Allen, Godwin, Sherfield, and something. I think those will be the ones in the optimal, but we'll find out in a moment. Raheem Jarrett, Keyshawn Vaughn coming up a little bit in terms of his snap share, taking some away from Rachaad White, playing a lot of those third down, long distance kind of plays. So that's something for Keyshawn Vaughn, where maybe a little more utility than it might seem. It's $600 price tag as well. Going to be a pretty good pivot to guys like Sherfield and Hardy. Keefe, basically a big offensive lineman guy who can maybe get 1 touchdown. So he's probably in the player pool, not the most excited about it. Ty Johnson filling in with Damian Harris on the IR. Suppose you can make a case that Ty Johnson always finds a way to score a touchdown in games where nobody's playing him, at least in his Jets career. So maybe you can go to him, but not the sexiest. And Deontay Hardy, not far behind there. Ownership coming up in a moment. But first, guys, if you're watching live or after the fact, please make sure to subscribe to Splash Play. Of course, shows Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Doing the best I can, especially for the Showdown builds, which have helped people make a lot of money, myself included. So I'm always grateful to hear from you guys about that. But please subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment if you're watching after the fact. All right, let's look at the ownership. And again, this will get more accurate, closer to the lock as well. Everything moves around, so keep that in mind if you are trying to operate and build lineups just off this data. Stephon Diggs, top projected owned player, 71% overall. Don't want to install that. Hold on. What is this prompt? I think that would come up on the screen, but there's a weird prompt asking me to install Stochastic on my Chrome browser, which I don't wish to install anything on my Chrome browser. Stephon Diggs, 71% ownership, 19% at captain. A lot of captain ownership for Diggs. So don't think it's a bad play. Diggs is great. Love Diggs. Diggs is one of my highest exposed best ball players. Took him in every possible situation. That's a lot of captain ownership for a receiver who's 11-4. So something to keep in mind there. You actually could be getting unique by going to the QB, even though these guys are only $400 apart. So I think that Allen gains an appeal as a play, gains an appeal as a thumbnail boy as well, because of the fact that there's going to be so much Diggs at captain projected. Chris Godwin in at number 3, 47% overall, 48%, 10% at captain. Baker Mayfield, number 4, 45%, 7% at captain. Mike Evans, number 5, 41%, and 8% at captain. Low-owned guys you can go to if you want to just try to cut your ownership product that way. Hardy at 10%. I don't know about that. That feels kind of light. Shakir projected for higher ownership. I really don't agree with that. I think people are going to, I think this is going to be double this, would be my guess. I think Hardy scored a touchdown last week, heavily involved last week. Shakir did basically nothing. I think that Hardy both has a better role than Shakir right now, but also I think people are going to play him a lot more. So I don't agree with this ownership. I wouldn't be surprised to be closer to 20% for Hardy. And I think Shakir, I would go 5 to 8%, I think, but 10% for a showdown, I think is pretty fair. Who else? Sherfield, 8%. Again, I really do think that Hardy and Sherfield are the ones that get steamed up a little bit more. I would project both of them to have double that ownership, but they're coming up as low owned right now. So if you're taking this ownership at its face and what the Sims are going to show us, it does feel like these guys are pretty good plays. And everybody else here, Chase Edmonds, is he even active? I don't. These are the ownership projections. Do with what you will. Do what you will with them. All right, let's load up Fantasy Cruncher right now. And of course, Fantasy Cruncher, what it's going to show us is where the pure math of it all puts a player that is optimizing. And of course, a lot of players still just using that classic optimizer. As I struggle to find, where is that premium tool? Okay, it's not under their football tab anymore. It is under here. Here we go. And then, yes, so that's basically not going to be, this is not exactly when I run and optimize these lineups, not an exact reflection of what the field's going to do, but it does tell you where the other people's optimizers are going to push them. And I think that's a pretty valuable part of the process for how I view things. So let's look at it right now. Use my projections, upload the data. Let's see what we get. A lot of Diggs and Allen. If I had to guess, we're going to get 100% Diggs and Allen. And maybe not far off for Godwin. Comments. Edmonds is elevated. Good to know. Good to know. So Edmonds, probably hard to expect him getting a role, given that he did seem like he got lapped by everybody else. I would say, I guess he's probably had a Sean Tucker, but he's definitely, I think, behind Keyshawn Vaughn at this point. Shout out our guy Mark as well. GM to everybody. Appreciate you guys being here with me on this fine Thursday morning. Team stacks. Let's look at that first this time. So we're getting 5 out of 25 or 5 ones favoring the Bills. So of course, 5 Bills player, 1 Buck. 11 out of 25 are going to be 4-2 builds. And then 7 out of 25 are 3 threes. And you are getting some 4-2 Bucks. So it does feel like Buffalo 5-1s probably going to be more represented than usual because they come up naturally with the projections. And people will certainly buy that as the narrative that the Bills steamroll the Bucks on Thursday Night Football. I think that's how a lot of people will play this one. But something to keep in mind there. All right, players. So we got Josh Allen, 88% at the flex, 12% at captain. Josh Allen confirmed in every lineup. Stephon Diggs, 56% at captain, 44% in the flex. Stephon Diggs appearing in every lineup. Chris Godwin, 64% in the flex, 12% at captain. So he is not in every lineup. So it looks like the guys that are coming up in every single lineup are, in fact, Allen and Diggs. Kincaid coming up in 80% of them. So not all of them, but coming up more than not. So not mega chalk, but I guess not looking like mega chalk for a stochastic or the projection so far. I do think Kincaid, though, is going to be played a lot by the hand builders and people that just that follow the games or whatever. People that are excited to see Kincaid, I think they're going to think this is a blow up spot for him. It might be, might not be. I don't really have a strong lean on that one, but he'll have the most opportunities ever had. So that's certainly a positive thing for him. Hardy coming up a little bit. Not getting any sure field naturally. So I might have misrepresented a little bit there. I might have been off rather about Hardy and Sherfield. I guess for me, those feel like plays that are really obvious. I think for sharp players as well, those are the kind of plays that always you kind of look at and you go, the public's going to gravitate towards this. But the projections are not really forcing you to Hardy, not forcing you at all to Sherfield. So I think those guys are more in play than I might have thought. Just I worry about them being so cheap and people knowing that role. But maybe people don't know that there isn't another tight end to go to. And this not having Knox materially changes the Bills offense in a way where they have to do things they haven't been doing normally. So I think that's something that I would watch the projections closely. And if you could run Fantasy Cruncher or your own optimizer, which include the same thing, basically, like run that closer to lock. If you can, blend some projections together, blend stochastic and ETR, blend whatever else is out there you think is credible, roto grinders if you want. But I think that, to me, I'm just surprised to see the Hardy Sherfield thing, but I guess it's possible. It's possible people don't get there. If this holds up, though, Sherfield a much better play because I think that he'll have some touchdown equity. Hardy's the best play out of that group of wide receiver threes. And Shakir not coming up at all either. So I think Shakir, the logic for him still stands. It's just less good tournament theory if people aren't going heavily to Hardy and Sherfield. Kickers and defenses. Bills defense coming up a lot, 40% of the time in an optimizer, again, because of this kind of slate, because it is a defense-heavy kind of team. And the perception of the Bills over the years has been that they are very good defensively. They could certainly get there, but I think they are going to be a little bit overowned relative to what I would expect. You're not getting a captain, it looks like, so that's a positive. Maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't play defense captain in this game, but you can if you want. And kickers coming up a little bit, not coming up too much here, where the kickers sometimes represent the value you need to get the good players in. That is not the case right now. So Tyler Bass, 12% out of 25 lineups. Chase McLaughlin, 4%. So kickers fine to play as well, even if they're, I would say for me, I guess Bucs kicker maybe a little bit more of a priority, just because I do think Tyler Bass gets a little more ownership at kicker, just because of the game script people are going to expect. All right, let's load up the sims here. Let's do it. Of course, if you're not familiar with the sim process on Stochastic, what they do is try to create 10,000 lineups, or I guess now they're creating 5,000. I guess they dropped their amount of lineups being created for some reason, which interesting. For showdowns, that doesn't matter though. So we'll see how that goes. But it was 10,000 lineups that compete against each other 40,000 times in a sim. I guess now it's a 5,000 lineup pool that competes 40,000 times for a sim. So whatever. Same difference though. Same difference for sure. Other takes on this one. Let me look up more snaps and routes. Just so you guys are aware, I guess Keefe playing 17 snaps per game. Raheem Jarrett playing 11.5 snaps per game. Payne Durham has played 10.5 snaps in 2 games. So he is a guy that is on the field a little bit as a tight end. Probably not the sexiest play, probably not the most exciting play, but he is a play that is getting some amount of work. So just have to reference him because for showdown, unfortunately, all these guys matter quite a bit. I'm also like, did they cut? No, because I still have the max package on my account. I'm like, I'm not getting fucked here by Stochastic going, hey, you can only have so many sims, brother. I think it's 30% to first. I always forget to look at this in advance, but why not? Why not? There's a brief outage on DraftKings before the stream as well, where like they basically were not showing how much money I had in my account and how like they're showing it as zeros. And I was like, this isn't good. I don't think we're there yet, but maybe after tonight. All right, so the showdown tonight, $1,500. Yeah, so it's 33% to first place in the showdown. So we'll put it at 30%. And then we will, of course, if you wanted to upload your own custom projections, as I do, again, blending stuff together, you can do that there, but we're not going to do that for right now. Simulating away. And then we'll take some water here because the slate works better. The simulation works better if I sip water during it. I think we can all agree. Of course, come back tomorrow as well for the Fantasy Football Gauntlet. Very similar process for the main slate and including an underdog fantasy battle royale draft and a pick'em too that we'll build. So lots of fun coming up here on Splash Play. Again, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Every single day, I'm here for you. Tomorrow, though, I'll be starting 11:15, I think, or 11:20 because I do have a meeting that's going to overlap, unfortunately. All right, top 150 lineups. Top one here. If you wanted to steal it, again, I wouldn't recommend that because the total's going to move around. The projections are going to move around, all that. Stephon Diggs, Baker Mayfield, Buccaneers, K. Dotton, Josh Allen, Latavius Murray. That's currently the highest ROI lineup, as you can see on this left side of the screen. No dupes expected, though. If it's using 49.5, maybe getting a little bit closer. A Diggs captain lineup at 49.5. I don't think this is unique enough to make you not get duped, so I would say that's probably the case. We need a good bit for while the sim is running. Sports trivia Q&A. Am I just becoming a movie theater? I have to play. It has to be me wandering through the studio going, the wonder and magic of showdown slates, like Nicole Kidman. That's the dream I've always aspired to. Let's favorite the top 150 and see what it gives us. Hydration is important for the squirt squad. If you're going to squirt, you got to be hydrated. I think we can all agree with that. Top exposures. Highest exposed player, Josh Allen at the flex. Baker Mayfield at the flex, coming up a good amount. Baker Mayfield, a guy, again, who lands in the Spags rankings quite a bit. And I think people are going to force a little more. I still think it's the better play. People are going to go a little more to Evans or Godwin if they're building 5-1s. And that is usually the strategic way to play, is you play the opposing receiver who's going to have the most outlier day in a 5-1 kind of build. but Baker runs just enough, runs just shy of 5 times per game, throws a deep 5 times per game. There's a world where he can make it as a 5-1 guy too, and I wouldn't rule that out because maybe the Spags rankings have been pointing us to Baker Mayfield as a top 5 QB in terms of opportunity for some reason, and maybe that reason is tonight that you play him a little bit more than you probably should. Stephon Diggs at number 3, Godwin number 4, highest exposure, 5 Bucs D. Bucs D, that's surprising. 38% of lineups with Bucs D. So I guess expecting Josh Allen to get a turnover, maybe Bucs D as the only Buck in a 5-1 build, but it's coming up a lot here in the highest ROI lineups. The players that it wants to get the most over the field on, Bucs D. Bucs D projected for 18% ownership. It wants us to get to 38. So that is a lot more ownership, double the ownership of the field. Chris Godwin, ownership projected for 10% at captain. Does want us to get to 25% Chris Godwin at captain. We did see the alternate team captain, the underdog team captain hit on Monday with Jordan Addison. So certainly some recent validity there to that as a hypothesis. Baker Mayfield coming in at number 3. A lot of leverage to him at the flex. Diggs coming in number 4. A lot of leverage to him at captain as well, despite the fact that he is the chalk captain. So he is clearly the best captain play. Something to keep in mind there. And then Trent Sherfield. Hey, me, Sim Brain. Trent Sherfield right here. Trent Sherfield wants us to get more than the field, 7.5%. Thinks we should get double, a little bit more than double. So Trent Sherfield, live and well in terms of the Sims. Top cash lineup here if you were playing cash games today, like a sicko, because Showdown cash. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Stephon Diggs, Bills, Bucs. Chris Godwin, Kincaid, Josh Allen. All right, there we go. Let's see if we can isolate some interesting lineups. Let's see what the best Gabe Davis lineup is. And I don't really want to die on the hill of Gabe Davis being my guy, but I'm going to play some Gabe Davis lineups at captain. Gabe Davis, Bucs D, Chris Godwin, Dalton Kincaid, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. Bucs D allows you to get to Diggs and Allen here, I guess, and Kincaid and Godwin. So pretty good team overall besides the Bucs D, just the question of that. We do know Josh Allen loves to turn it over from time to time, so I get that. Let's see. We don't want to sort by cash. Highest ROI one with Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, Bucs D again. Dalton Kincaid, Josh Allen, Rachaad White, Stephon Diggs. This is one that probably gets duped. If you are going to any captain at all and it's 50K, you're probably going to get duped. For a Gabe Davis one, I would go down a little bit more. Like this one, probably less duped, even though it says it has 1. I would imagine this one's going to be a lot more duped than this one just because of the salary left on the table. But Gabe Davis, Bills, Bucs, Josh Allen, Rachaad White, Stephon Diggs. I don't know about Rachaad White. Rachaad White always gets into lineups for me as like a projection play, and I don't feel the best about it. Can't see 2 defenses. 2 defenses is hard. I mean, what would have to happen? Let's see, Buffalo gets pressure at a 29% rate. And a lot of that's front 4 pressure as well because their blitz rate's just 24%. So anytime you see a team that gets pressure more than they're blitzing, that does mean that they're able to get pressure just on the O-line. So that is something that stands out a little bit. And Baker is pressured 32% of the time. So he's going to see pressure in about a third of snaps, and that could certainly be a bad thing for Baker, though he has handled pressure pretty well in the year. Negative 1.9, negative 0.19 EPA is his mark, which again, that's like a perfectly okay number. You're going to expect guys to be a little bit negative when they are getting pressure. And then the Bucs get pressure 20% of the time, but they blitz 39% of the time. So they're not getting home when they're blitzing. It's going to leave some stuff wide open for Josh Allen to take advantage of. So I feel better. I think Allen, to me, I don't ever want to say there's nobody who's really a 100% play on Showdown unless you're just trying to cut down your player pool to make it so you have more chance of a lineup bubbling up. I think Josh Allen's a 100% play to me, though, in terms of how I would view that and want to approach that. Don't ever want to lock a guy in. I'm not telling you guys to do that, but I think for me, if he ends up at 100% of lineups, I would just go, all right, like what are you going to do? It's Josh Allen. He's in a pretty good spot. Get a good run matchup for him, a good pass game matchup for him. They're going to blitz and not get home. Like the blitzing part is not great that he's going against a team. It's going to blitz 40% of the time. But still, like I think that's pretty good for him. What would be a good Allen captain lineup? And this is really, like, again, don't feel like you have to use this lineup. I'm just trying to show you guys the process always that, like, I use to select stuff. This one being at 49-1, I think it's going to make it more appealing, though it is, again, these are pretty chalky guys. Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Latavius Murray, Rachaad White, Stephon Diggs, Trent Sherfield. I like that one if we do believe that Sherfield's going to be under 10% owned. I think that makes a good amount of sense here. And then some other ones, too, in a Showdown you could go to. And this is something that I would advocate doing if you're putting in a 150 pool. Because this is how I've placed, top 25 multiple times so far this year, would just be win rate over 0. And you're basically just going to go all the way down here Because you know what happens down here? Nobody plays lineups like these. So you find one that passes the sniff test for you. Josh Allen, Chris Godwin, James Cook, Keyshawn Vaughn, Latavius Murray, Trey Palmer. Doesn't make the most sense. You could still play it. But you can see here, it does win some amount of the time. So if you really want to find unique lineups in a showdown, but ones that have some sort of backing to why they have credibility to them, because they win some amount of times in sims. These are ones you can get. So I wouldn't advocate for this one. One like this makes more sense, where you have Josh Allen, you have 3 pass catchers with him with Deontay Hardy, Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, getting direct leverage on Stephon Diggs. You're also getting Chris Godwin, who we think is a good play. You're getting Rashad White as well, who's also like a good projection play. And these guys are all going to be played a good amount. I guess Shakir less so, and Hardy, if we're to believe the ownership, Hardy less so as well. But these kind of builds are ones that I think just you don't end up with like 100 people duping you. You end up with 5 people duping you. So if you have a shot for this to win, you're just going to make a lot more money doing it. So that is something I've been doing a lot of, where especially when I get lazy towards the end of putting in mini max entries, because I just put in the mini max entries to cover all my bases, and it has been helpful to kind of keep me profitable in showdowns. I just put in ones that it's like, who's not going to own this? Because the mini max, it's harder to win sometimes than the actual milli makers, just because of how many people are smart and can't afford to max out a milli maker, but they can't afford to spend $75 maxing out the mini max. You believe it all, the look ahead narrative. Bills have Bengals next. No, I wouldn't, especially coming off a shitty performance like the Bills had last time out. I think for them, I think they're going to be pretty focused here on putting it down. Home game too. I think there's enough motivators for them here that they don't need to look forward to the Bengals very much. But obviously, big game coming up, but also going to be 10 days away. So no, I wouldn't worry about that. Leading towards a Bills win and sloggy game type narrative, like 17-13 Bills. And that kind of build, you can go to 2 defenses. And we did see that those are pretty positive ROI. So I don't think it's an unreasonable way to play. I think the chalk narrative for the game would be Bucs get completely shut down. Josh Allen and the Bills put it down hard on him. So I think anything you play that's not that is going to be a little more contrarian. And anything you do play that is that build, again, the Bucs putting it down, Bills putting it down, Bucs not getting anything going. You have to get unique then if you're going to play that kind of build. Like if you're playing, Diggs at captain with Allen, with Cook, with Bills D, like you're just going to end up in a slog of people that are going to be very highly duped. I think Tampa wins. Okay, and I'm stealing all these, Mr. Shadow Dog. Hey, look, if you need to steal them all, go for it. But obviously, I recommend just taking what I'm talking about, doing your own process with it if you can. But obviously, follow your heart. Ooh, oh, look at all these lineups. Play them all, guys. The data won't move at all. Play them all in the tournaments I'm playing. Ooh. All part of my evil game. All right, guys, it's time for the 3 takeaways that I think you need to use to get unique on this lineup tonight or on the slate tonight. The first one's going to be, if you want to get unique, separate Allen and Diggs right away. I think that is one that has some validity. Allen can get there by running the ball. He can get there in a triple stack, a double stack with other Bills guys. If Gabe Davis does go off, Diggs probably doesn't make that lineup, or it has a less high shot of making that lineup. So I think there are ways you can walk yourself into that one. Projections just are too obvious saying Allen and Diggs. So great plays, like play them together in some amount of lineups. But if you really were going for the gusto, if you're putting in one lineup and trying to win $1 million, I would say just separate those guys. And that's one way to immediately chop yourself from 50, 60% of the pool right away. Number 2 would be, be aware of what people are going to be playing tonight, and that is going to be very Bills offense heavy builds with not a lot of Bucs on the way back. So if you play the Bucs being competitive, if you play the Bucs winning, you're going to get very unique. That's the case in every showdown, but tonight especially is one where I think people are going to cram in Bills D. They're going to cram in a lot of Bills. And the Bills D is like good on the year, negative 0.14 EPA per dropback, negative 0.17 EPA per pass, negative 0.05 EPA per rush. They shut down running back targets really well, negative 0.35 EPA there. Bills D is good, but it's not like it's got some vulnerabilities, especially outside and a slot too. Positive EPA there, 0.05 EPA allowed to the slot, but out wide, they're like objectively bad. So I do think that you should expect a touchdown to come from the Bucs at some point, or a deep play, some combo they're in, but somebody is going to produce enough offensively to make a lineup. So I would say that would be my bet, my proclamation. And number 3, I do think defenses and kickers are a little bit underowned tonight just because of the nature of the game. But again, like I think the Bills D isn't great. The Bucs D, I definitely don't have a lot of faith in, but we know Josh Allen can turn it over. We know Josh Allen has a propensity to sometimes have good games and still throw a pick in there. Sometimes a pick six. Sometimes a pick six gets him more motivated to get it downfield. So I think I'd rather see Josh Allen turn it over and have that willingness to push it, because he just hasn't been doing that as much this year. And if that's the case, maybe the Bucs D does benefit. So it's hard to ignore how much the Bucs D was coming up in these lineups. And I do think playing some more defenses, some more kickers tonight, I think a little more in play than they would usually be because the projections just aren't forcing you there. But there you go, guys. Showdown video done. And once again, I will ask you guys kindly as always, as kindly as I'm capable of, so please subscribe down below. Please hit the like button. Please leave a comment if you're watching after the fact. If you have any questions, anything you want me to look up data-wise, I'll be around. So please always reply to every comment. That is my goal here because I care about you guys. And I appreciate you guys being willing to spend time with me, of course, in a very crowded industry of fantasy football content. But please go leave whatever. And go check out probably.com. Go check out some bets for tonight. Find some plus EV ones very easily at probably.com. That is my site. It is all of my mathematical processes that are so rigorous and so vigorous here on Splash Play. But no, the best betting tools you can find for free, especially check them out at probably.com. That is a thing that I put a lot of my life and sweat equity into, and it is free to do everything you want there. Paid products coming out soon, but it's all going to be building on this free kind of template of things that we've got going on there. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. And once again, shout out to the chat. Appreciate all you guys being here, and I will see you guys again soon. So enjoy your days. Good luck. And of course, if I don't take this tournament down, this is for you, Consigliere. If I don't take a tournament down, I hope you guys do. So I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Of course, good luck. Bye.